Hi, everybody. How are you doing today? Welcome into this very exciting webinar. We're super excited to share the new Bonterra vision with you all here today. If you are here to learn more specifically about the strategic philanthropy solution category, you are in the right place. Super excited to have you here today. My name is Amanda DeFonte. I'm our Senior Manager of Webinars and Virtual Events here at Bonterra. And I wanted to just take a couple of moments while we're all getting together, getting settled, maybe finishing multitasking. We'll see. I know we like to do both things, but we've got some great information for you here today. Just to set some housekeeping notes for you. First and foremost, we are recording today's session. So if you need to jump early or if you want to rewatch this, share it with your team, you can expect an email from us in about a week that will have the recording to this session, as well as the other vision sessions that we're doing this week. So keep an eye out from that. We'll want everybody to put your questions to the Q&A section, Q&A box. We might not have time to get to all of them, but please ask as many as you have and as you want. We're going to keep them. We'll follow up with you as best we can. So please ask those throughout the day, and we'll do our best to get to them. But I will turn it over to the star of the show now, and we're joined by two amazing Bonterrans, two experts. And without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce our CEO, Scott Brighton. Thank you, Scott. I will let you take it from here.
Well, thank you, Amanda. Let's pump up the slides. So let me start perhaps by introducing myself on the next slide. I have been now with Bonterra for roughly 5 months, and I've been spending that time with customers, learning from each of you about what's working and what's not working, and about what you're trying to do, what problems you're trying to solve. And we've been using that insight to inform where we're taking the company strategically. And so what you're going to hear today is both our broader vision for Bonterra, which talks to the impact we're trying to make around social good generally. And then I'm going to hand it over to Lauren, who is going to talk more specifically about how that vision relates to the solutions that we're providing for funders, corporates, large foundations, and our vision for those products specifically. So super excited to be sharing this with you today and for all of you joining us. Let me spend a few minutes talking a bit about Bonterra, if we can shift to the next slide. And actually, let's pop one forward, because I'm going to do this in a little bit of a different order. So Bonterra, some of you probably have more of an affinity or familiarity to your individual product brand, whether that be CyberGrants or WeSpire, than you do to Bonterra, because Bonterra is relatively new. The company was formed in 2022 from the combination of more than a dozen best-of-breed software products around social good. And the idea was, one of the things that makes it hard within social good is the diversity of products and the fact that they don't integrate and share data. And that's part of what we wanted to solve by bringing these best-of-breed products all together. So Bonterra today, about 1,000 employees. We have over 20,000 customers. On the corporate side, we have over half the Fortune 100. We have a portfolio of 20 products. Nearly $20 billion of giving flows through the Bonterra ecosystem. And we have over 16,000 nonprofit organizations as part of our customer base. And let's pop to the previous slide for a moment, and I'll talk about our ownership. So we're owned by a private equity firm by the name of Apax, but Apax is not an ordinary private equity firm. Apax was founded by a gentleman named Sir Ronald Cohen, an Egyptian immigrant to the United Kingdom. And his vision was to create impact investing. And he's generally recognized as the father of impact investing. And the idea behind impact investing was that when we make investments, one of the things we're obviously looking for is economic return, but another thing that we should be looking for at equal priority is social return. And Apax's investment in Bonterra is something of an illustration of that, because ideally they get an economic return on their investment in the company, but also Our aspiration to transform philanthropy should also make social impact as well. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about the vision for Bonterra, the broader vision, and this is going to span all of our products and our sort of our bigger picture, and then we'll drill down specifically into what this means for our customers on the corporate and foundation side, and as it relates to strategic philanthropy. So here's the way we see the world. If you look at social good, our view is that it has something of an existential problem. Total giving in the United States, and when I say total giving, I mean the combination of monetary giving as well as the economic value of volunteerism, is roughly $620 billion a year. It's a big number, but candidly, it pales in relation to the investment that's required to address society's most important problems. And you can see that illustrated in the chart on the left. The bigger circle is the estimated annual cost to address just three big problems: climate change, world hunger, and US child poverty. You can see that those, relative to the 620 billion in giving, it's just a massive disconnect. And then the other problem we have is, while that 620 billion will expect to grow year over year, the historical growth rate has essentially been at the rate of US GDP. So even though the US has gotten sort of substantially wealthier on a per capita basis, overall, giving's just sort of ticking along at 2 to 2.5% a year, and it's been doing that for basically 70 years. So with fairly high predictability, we can understand how slowly that 620 billion is going to grow, and it's going to take a long time for it to get anywhere near this 5.5 trillion. So next slide. If you take a shorter time perspective, there's trends that are arguably even more alarming. So over the last 20 years, individual giving participation, that is the percentage of people that give, in the United States has declined from roughly 2/3 to less than half. And if you look at volunteering, the percentage of adults volunteering, that's declined from nearly 1/3 to about 1/4. And then donor retention, or the number of people that consistently support an individual nonprofit or individual cause, is also in decline from roughly 50% to now approaching 40%. So these trends are candidly a little alarming, and what that's creating for social good organizations, for nonprofits, it's difficult for them to scale their impact, right? You've got over 2/3 of them reporting an increase in demand for the services they provide, but half of them reporting that they're struggling to deliver those services due to resource shortages. And as we just talked about, those resource shortages aren't showing any sign of alleviating anytime soon, given the slow growth of giving. So what we wanted to do is try to figure out what is going on here, what explains some of these trends. And so that's kind of where we want to go next. Trust is what we believe to be the center of the social good ecosystem. So when we talk to funders and donors, and we have a lot of them represented in this call, that is rated as the #1 single issue. Do I trust that this particular nonprofit is the right place for me to give? And the #2 issue cited is relationships, which is arguably kind of a dimension of trust. And then, you ask a couple of specific questions of donors. 81% have said they need to know a great deal about an organization before they'll choose to support it. 78% say that nonprofits must earn my trust before I support them. And when we talk about trust, what are we really talking about? In our view, it's really two questions that donors want answered, that volunteers want answered, which is, if I have a particular cause that I'm passionate about in a particular community, for example, where and how should I give or volunteer to make that impact, right? Just answering the question of where's the best place to go. And then once I've made that decision and volunteered my time or given money, what impact was actually achieved by virtue of my giving? We believe the answers to those two questions get to the essence of trust. And the problem is, on the next slide, those two questions are difficult for nonprofits to answer for funders, right? And the reason is, number one, there's been an explosion in the number of nonprofits. So although giving and volunteerism is growing relatively slowly, the number of nonprofits is actually exploding, right? It's up nearly 50% over the past 20 years. And with more nonprofits becomes sort of more confusion, right, about where is the best place to give. When I talk to funders and corporates and many of the folks on this call, one of the things many of them have said that, often employees can't find or don't know where to give. And so they go off on their own, and it leaves things like matching gifts unclaimed and those kinds of problems, right? It is confusing. We see this when there's a big event, a hurricane, the Middle East crisis that galvanizes giving or volunteerism. People don't know where to go. And then in the middle chart, the other thing we see is even once that decision is made, the low insight into outcomes undermines the sustainability, right? So, and most nonprofits know this. They know that being able to measure and report impact outcomes matter, right? 4 out of 5 have mentioned it's a top priority, but only 1 out of 5 are able to sort of do it today. And so as a result, what we are seeing sort of consistently reported is declining trusts in nonprofits as an institution. And digging a level beneath that, what is creating this sort of declining trust is what we sort of look at as sort of a vicious cycle. And it relates to those two questions I shared earlier. So on the question of where and how should I as a funder give my time and resources, one is low visibility. There isn't an easy way for a funder or their employees who are passionate about a particular cause to identify the right place to go make that call. The visibility is low. And in some cases, it may not even be an option in the corporate inventory of relationships. The other thing is the relationship between funders, volunteers, and the social good organizations is often disjointed and impersonal, right? You don't feel that you are part of something. And a lot of that relates to the nature of the marketing that social good organizations are able to execute today. And then what happens to the resources and time that I give, right? When you're giving money, you are, number one, want to make sure that as much of that money and resource goes to the end cause, and so that social good organizations are using the money efficiently. But also you want to know what the impact was, right? Report how many homeless were sheltered, how many hungry were fed by virtue of the gift or time that I provided. And so these are, in effect, sort of the 4 big things that we're trying to focus on. And we believe by focusing on them, we can turn this sort of vicious circle into a virtuous circle, right? Where on the social good side, we can help them build more effective relationships with funders. We can help them report results and impact to funders and corporates. We can give funders and corporates the visibility they need, just sort of broad visibility into, and their employees, all the opportunities that are available to them, right? Make it easy to search for specific opportunities, make it easy for them to transfer credit card information from one place to another, all of those kinds of things, right? That's what we're trying to do, build trust and in effect, solve what we believe, to sort of simplify it, is effectively a matching problem between people that want to give money or time and are engaged to do so, and the organizations that are in the best position to make the impact that those folks are seeking to make. So on the next slide, today, Bonterra really operates in three categories, and they all sort of operate in sort of a siloed way. We have strategic philanthropy, which is our sort of set of corporate social responsibility products, including cyber grants and WeSpire. And those products are used to help those funders give resources away, engage employees into high impact things for social good. We have a separate set of products that social good organizations use to manage and measure impact. And we have yet a third set of products that social good organizations use to build relationships with donors, conduct fundraising, etc. But all of those today are sort of separate and siloed. And so in order to create that virtuous cycle we talked about, our vision is a little bit different moving forward. On the next slide, what we're looking to do is connect all of this. And so now, if you're a funder or a corporate that is looking to engage employees or make distributions out of a foundation, you're going to be able to get vast visibility into all of the social good organizations that are connected to this ecosystem. And that information will include things like the actual measurable impact that those organizations are making out in the field, so that folks will be able to find the right place, easily search for it based on the cause, based on the community that they're particularly interested in. They'll be able to get data on measurable impact, what they're actually doing. They'll be able to see how their specific gift has made an impact, right? That's our vision, and we can achieve that and are in a unique position to achieve it because our ecosystem spans all of these different pieces. It's just about pulling it together, right? And that's really what we're working on and looking to do. And so, we have specific things we want to do within each of these products to make them more effective and better. But then we have this broader vision about bringing these different pieces together to help transform social good overall. And if we do that on the next slide, the mantra we talk about internally, our vision, we talk about 3% by 33, which is what we're seeking to do by virtue of all of this work is, in effect, double the size of the giving pie from the 2 to 2.5% of GDP it's been stuck at for 70 years to 3% of GDP by 33. And the only way you're going to do that is if you solve the connection problem, you make the impact of that giving and that volunteerism that much more visible. And if we do that, we think that this is eminently achievable. Okay, so that's the broader sort of context. What I'd like to do now is shift gears for those of you on this webinar who are asking, okay, I get it, but what does this actually mean for me as a corporate funder or a foundation that's seeking to give money away or engage my employees? And so let me turn it over to Lauren McCarthy. Lauren McCarthy is the head of product for our strategic philanthropy category. Lauren, it's all you.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Thanks for walking us through that. As Scott mentioned, I'm Lauren. I'm privileged to lead our strategic philanthropy product team. And I could not be more excited about our 3 and 33 vision, as well as what I'm about to share for you related to strategic philanthropy. Just by way of introduction, for those I haven't met, I've been at Bonterra for a little bit over a year. I actually spent most of my career working in technology that supports nonprofit fundraising. So I understand the social good side of the world. And then I switched over to the corporate side and worked in ESG and corporate governance. So coming to Bonterra has really been a perfect match. So I'm excited to be here. You might notice we have a new name. So we used to sort of be CSR Solutions. Now we're Strategic Philanthropy. I'm going to talk a little bit about that change. Scott alluded to it some earlier, but we're really focusing on funders across the board, corporate funders, as well as private and sort of large funders. We're also focused on the employees of those corporations and then the social good organizations who receive that funding from the largest funders. And I think there's many of you on both the funder and the social good organization side on this webinar today. So thank you again for joining us today. I also just want to set expectations for what I'm about to present. This is going to be our overall vision for strategic philanthropy. This is not a roadmap. This is not a discussion about specific products at this time. This vision is what actually informs our roadmap and what we build and how we measure success, both for ourselves, but for you as well. At the end of this session, we'll talk a little bit more about next steps and how you can learn and find out more about what we actually will build as an outcome of this vision. So over the last 10 years, we've seen a lot of change in the corporate social responsibility space. There have been shifting expectations across employees, across corporations, and social good organizations that place greater demands on workplace giving, volunteerism programs, and grant-making programs. So as a result of that, we would expect to see engagement in corporate philanthropy increasing, but what we're seeing is actually the opposite. And so I'll walk you through some of those specific shifts that we've seen. Probably many of them are largely familiar to you and you have experienced them yourselves. So first, in the employee side of the world, we've probably seen so much in the media over the last 3 to 5 years around the employee-employer relationship. And there's really been no shortage of data or analysis that outlines the shifts in employee desires to work for companies with a demonstrated social impact. This is especially true of next-gen talent for Gen Z and millennials. You know, we see about 70% of employees that want to work somewhere that has a commitment and supports giving and volunteerism program that's becoming table stakes for attracting and retaining talent today. So this is one thing that we're seeing more and more on the employee side. On the corporate side, as a result of this, there's increasing pressure on corporations to drive social impact. According to Edelman's Trust Barometer, corporations are seen as the only trustworthy institutions in the world. So we can, put political institution commentary to the side. What's interesting, going back to what Scott mentioned about sort of the vicious cycle of trust, corporations hold that trust right now with consumers and with their employees. So what you have is you have corporations who are trusted to get things done. You have employees who are demanding philanthropic programs. And so as a result of this, we've seen pretty much most of the companies in the S&P 500 are now publishing CSR reports today, whereas over 10 years ago, only 20% of organizations did it. So there's this growing demand and drive towards sort of impact driven by corporations. And on the social good side, as Scott was talking about in the Bonterra vision, we've seen individual giving decline and greater demand for services and sort of solving some of the largest problems in our world. Nearly half of nonprofits surveyed indicate that a key growth strategy for them is workplace giving. And I know from talking to many of you on the call how close that partnership is and can be between social good organizations and corporate funders and other funders. According to America's Charities, there's about $5 billion that's raised annually through workplace giving programs. So that's seen as a way of sort of providing sustainable, recurring, stable revenue sources to social good organizations. So again, as mentioned earlier, given all these shifts around employee expectations, sort of corporate responsibility, increasing emphasis on corporate philanthropy, and this greater demand for funding from social good organizations, we'd expect to see an overall increase in corporate philanthropy. But before I get into what's actually happening and what we're seeing, I'm going to take a minute for a poll. We've got a couple polls sprinkled in through this presentation. So I'd really actually like to hear what you are experiencing personally at your organizations, if you can just share through this poll. And I'll give you all a couple seconds to read through and respond. Okay, thank you for those who responded. So what is happening is the opposite of what we would expect. So as the need and demand has gone up, funding volume and employee engagement has actually declined. So as a percentage of profits, corporate giving rates have been declining over the last 40 years and have not kept pace with inflation. And employees, despite demanding giving and volunteerism programs, have been less engaged over the last 3 years. And if you think about everything that's happened in the last 3 years, George Floyd, Ukraine, climate-related disasters, various hurricanes, geopolitical crises, there's been so much to engage employees and individuals on, yet we are less engaged overall. So what's going on here? Like, shouldn't we be seeing higher engagement and higher funding volumes? At Bonterra, we believe that the root issue is misconnections. Again, sort of building those relationships and that trust. For employees and for corporations, this disconnect is sort of manifested in lower participation rates in volunteerism and in giving programs. Less obviously, this disconnect also creates missed opportunities for corporations to engage employees in their philanthropic grant-making programs. So a couple of examples. One thing is employees are surprisingly disconnected from their employees' CSR strategy, with only about 20% of Gen Z and millennial employees, again, this is our large pool of employees, next-gen talent, believing that they have any influence over their employer's social impact agenda. This is despite those younger professionals emerging as the most enthusiastic and engaged cohort of giving and volunteerism, folks. And additionally, the giving opportunities corporations provide are often disconnected from the causes employees care about. Scott mentioned this earlier in talking about the Bonterra vision. About a third of employees say they do not give through their workplace because the causes they care about are not made available to them. What we have seen is when charitable choice is given to employees, we see that employee participation rate go up. So again, part of it is how do we make sure we provide opportunity to employees so they can become more engaged through their workplace giving programs. And often employees are closest to the programs and organizations making an impact in their communities. Maybe they volunteer on their own time with them. Maybe they are close because they see the work those organizations are doing in their communities. So they're very much aware of what's going on the ground in their communities, but they're not necessarily always given a voice or an opportunity to recommend those organizations to CSR practitioner. And that's a sort of missed opportunity and a missed connection there. These misconnections will result in missed potential in CSR programs. This disconnect can result in billions, throw lots of numbers at you, but this disconnect can result in billions, and I'm saying billions, left on the table each year. So if we think back to 3% and 33, those billions can be a huge way of closing that gap. So not only are 30% of employees not giving because they can't find a match with meaningful causes, but there's also between $4 and $7 billion in unclaimed matching gift funds that are left on the table every single year. And this is, we ask ourselves why. There's probably a handful of reasons around this. We believe the root of it lies in providing the appropriate giving opportunities to employees, making sure that they're aware of the potential for matches, making the process of claiming and funding that match as frictionless as possible. So education and sort of ease is critical to capturing those unclaimed funds. And on the grant making side, we hear a lot from social good organizations as well as funders about how difficult it is to build those partnerships. We have heard so much from smaller social good organizations that may not have the relationships or the resources to identify and secure funding opportunities. And with so many strategic grants that exist as invite only, identifying potential matches between funder and social good organizations and fostering those relationships once they're identified is really critical towards, again, increasing funding opportunities and making that a more sustainable source of income for these organizations. But ultimately, one of the most problematic outcomes of this current state of disconnection is that it feeds this kind of alarmingly vague definition of impact or purpose that pervades our industry, which results in a tenuous feedback loop between social good organizations, employees, funders, and corporations. So as the amount of effort is going into CSR initiatives is increasing, it's not resulting in that clear and measurable impact results that drive those feedback loops that increase employee retention, that boost participation, and that continue to drive more impact. So I'm going to stop for another poll because I would love to hear your feedback on how much you all agree with the assertion that missing these connections is the root cause of our growing corporate gap. So I'll give you all a few seconds to read through and answer this one. Okay. Great. So how do we solve for this at Bonterra? We want to be matchmakers. So our vision for strategic philanthropy is to become match.com for funders and social good organizations. It's a solution that connects employees, funders, SGOs to maximize that overall impact. If you think about match.com, it revolutionized and connected the dating world by making it easier to discover, to vet, and to match with potential partners, which resulted in millions of lasting relationships and marriages. We want to do the same by making it easy for employees and corporations to discover and to vet and to connect with social good organizations that are aligned to the causes they care about. And contrary to the standard approach in CSR today, our approach at Bonterra is hyper-focused on hours volunteered, funding provided, and meaningful impact on philanthropic engagement that creates positive outcomes in communities. Our conviction is that measurable and focused purpose with tangible outcomes is what motivates and retains employees and builds corporate brands. And to achieve this connected vision, we will deliver a set of solutions that enhance discovery, kind of make that matching seamless. You need data and discovery to create those matches and to generate trust, that eroding trust in every step of the funding process. And our network, combined with the robust profiles and data that we have, preferences and impact measurement, which will be as part of tomorrow's conversation, will result in a more connected experience for every sort of participant in our ecosystem. If you're a funder, you're going to be able to connect with and develop the right relationships through intuitive discovery, through grant making, through impact management tools. So how do you find, how do you manage, and how do you measure? For social good organizations of any size and any location will be able to find and connect with corporate partners or larger private funders to obtain those sustainable funding sources and to foster those relationships to sort of build capacity and create a sustainable funding resource. For employees, similar to funders, how do you find those organizations that match with you? And then how do you maximize your matching funds that are, basically a benefit from your organization provided to employees? So take advantage of it. We need to maximize that matching, making it easier to claim that match, and then also to participate in volunteer and giving opportunities with causes that are most meaningful to you. So there's a couple different ways in which we plan to sort of achieve and focus on this overall vision, right? So again, on the grant management side, we really want to focus on two areas. We hear how hard it is to find and develop and manage SGO partnerships that are connected with that overall mission. And so with our grant management solution, we want to elevate grant making by making discovery easier and the end-to-end process much more efficient so that funding can reach its full potential, right? So there's a couple ways we want to do this. So first is with the right level of data to derive those opportunities together. We want to make it easier for you to discover and allocate funding to the most aligned causes with AI-based matching. So you're hearing a lot about AI. We definitely want to leverage AI and sort of machine learning and predictive modeling wherever possible to foster those connections between you as a funder and you as a social good organizations to create that match. We also want to better understand and manage your grant making portfolio with impact data and reporting. So making it easier as a funder for you to measure and demonstrate alignment to your funding objectives and to your community impact. We understand that as funders, you're being asked very often for reporting and measurement around how is this having impact? How does this align with our goals and objectives? How does this align with different sort of funding priorities? We want to provide you with the easier way to do that. And then last but not least on aligning opportunities is how to better understand your SGO partners and who they are and what they're trying to get at through this profile data that helps to foster and create those relationships. So how do you understand what's important to your SGO partners, what their challenges are, where there's opportunity to build capacity and to help them operationalize more effectively? We want to remove that sort of guesswork and make those and help build that relationship and build that capacity. On the second point, we would like to increase and help increase grant making efficiency. So we want to make sure that funders have the time to build those partnerships and spend time with their social good organizations that they're partnered with, and less on the sitting at their desk, sort of managing a workflow or approval processes or chasing down various steps of a workflow. So again, I think there's great opportunity here for using AI and using technology to help streamline the application process. So and this is on both sides of the coin, right? Social good organizations, it's very time consuming to apply for and fill out grant applications. On the funder side, creating and managing the grant application process is also time consuming. So where is there opportunity for us to make that more efficient, either through using some form of standard or autofill data, but also making it easier to sort of build and create those applications and making it easier to reuse sort of responses and components. That's sort of step one, thinking about a library. Number two is on the overall workflow process. Grant making approvals and workflows can be super complex, especially if you are in a sort of regulated company or a regulated environment where you have a lot of different controls in place with how you move through a grant application and approval process. So again, we want to understand that complexity exists and allow you to manage for that, but make it simpler and easier so that you're not sort of chasing things down. So we think about things like automatic nudges and end-to-end visibility about all stages of the grant making process. Reminders, triggers, right? All of those things are going to be critical to making everyone work more effectively and efficiently in the grant process. And then third, and this is most important, the number one thing we're talking about is how do we get funds in the hands of social good organizations? So how do we make that more effective and easier? So offloading that burden wherever possible, so you don't have to worry about how do I know what the payment information is for this nonprofit, or have I validated that this ACH information is accurate or this bank information is accurate. We want to take that off your hands and remove that burden from funders. By using our sort of global scalable disbursement service to make that easier for you and handle all the required reporting and everything else. So again, making it easier for funders and SGOs to kind of get the funds, identify the opportunities more easily and more effectively. So that's on the grant side. What I will, let's see if I can move on the employee engagement side, there's a lot of opportunity here, I think, especially in how do we connect employees to that compelling corporate impact agenda in order to sort of really attract and retain that talent that you're looking for and to maximize the potential of corporations within the social good space. And so in order to do that for employee engagement, we're focused also on two really key areas. Number one, shouldn't sort of be a shock to our corporate partners on the call right now, is how do we increase participation? I know that you all sort of live and breathe by participation metrics as a sign of success. We understand that, and we want to make those numbers go up for you, for us, for all of us. And we believe that we need to do that through real motivation, right? So how do we motivate employees to be engaged? And so there's a couple ways we think about it. So how do we make it easier for, corporate CSR administrators and practitioners to more easily sort of like no code launch giving campaigns? I think, this time of year, unfortunately, it seems like it's one disaster or crisis after another. So we want to give you the opportunity to respond very quickly and sort of turnkey with being able to respond and spin up a campaign around Israel-Palestine or earthquakes in the Middle East, wherever it is. So hurricanes. It's important that you can respond quickly to your employees when things like that happen and provide them opportunities to give to disaster programs. Just like with grant making, again, that matchmaking. So how do we align employees to social good organizations that kind of match their interests in the causes they care about? This is where, again, AI, machine learning, understanding behavior can help drive that. If I know that you're really committed to pit bull rescue organizations, how can I help surface to you the most impactful organizations in your community as an employee that you might want to volunteer or donate to, right? That's critical. I think the second is how do we make, or the third, make giving fun, right? There's healthy competition, especially in workplace giving programs, is really fun. It's dynamic. It gets folks engaged. It drives engagement. So we want to think about ways within the application that we can gamify that experience, create competition across teams, make it fun and dynamic as a way of boosting overall engagement and getting employees engaged. And then last but not least is making sure that we provide giving and volunteerism opportunities wherever employees reside. So it's a global culture. Employees are not always US based. So making sure that we can provide volunteer and giving opportunities to employees globally that, align with whatever regulatory and sort of regional compliance might exist. So that's sort of the fourth piece in boosting that overall engagement. And then secondly, max out matching, right? How do we decrease that $4 to $7 billion that sits unclaimed every year? We want to think about how that becomes something that all of us in this community, in this industry, are thinking about and is top of mind. So we want to make it easier to kind of automate wherever possible and streamline the matching gift approval process. I know everyone sort of has their own rules and tolerance for risk around matching gift claims and approving those either automatically or going through some sort of approval process. So we want to kind of automate and streamline that as much as possible so that more matches can go claimed. We also want to use sort of the application reminders and triggers for a way to remind employees, hey, you have a matching gift balance that's going to go unused. Again, employees should think of this as a benefit that they're given, just like health insurance or 401k or anything else. That matching gift balance is a benefit. So how do we make sure that employees are able to make the most use of it over the course of the year? And then last is, instead of one-time gifts, which can be matched, how do we think about turning those one-time gifts into recurring donations, whether it's through a monthly payment through their credit card that gets matched every month, or through making it easier or streamlining the payroll giving process, right? So you can, $10 one-time $10 gift suddenly becomes $120, and with a 2-to-1 match, you've doubled that. So there's tremendous opportunity there in terms of how do we incent or think about making it easier for those one-time gifts to become recurring. So that is employee engagement. So that's kind of how we're thinking overall about what it is, our vision, and how we can achieve it going forward. So it's really, we could not be more excited to be working on this and to have this vision in place. We believe at Bonterra that we are truly uniquely positioned to solve these issues. Because we do serve as that connective tissue, as Scott was mentioning earlier. If you think about our social good ecosystem, we have brought together 20,000 social good organizations using our products today. We have 150,000 eligible and verified social good organizations using Front Door, which is our nonprofit portal in the corporate space. We have, as we said, 50 of the Fortune 100 companies, so some of the largest corporate funders, on the planet. Are in our ecosystem. And then we have millions of employee supporters who are engaging with social good organizations and making donations and volunteering their time every day. And we facilitate more than 1/5 of all corporate giving. So this scale is what enables us to link this ecosystem end to end, from the largest of large funders all the way down to, smaller nonprofits that are making measurable impact in their communities. So as we continue growing the reach and the depth of our partnerships in each part of the social good ecosystem, the experiences that we deliver will continue to strengthen and build upon each other. And we intend to propel strategic philanthropy to its full potential in the social good space, and would love your organization to be part of that journey. So with the vision story complete, we're going to move on to 3 polls. So I just want to get everyone mentally prepared that there's 3 series of questions I'm going to ask. So the first one is a final poll. We would just really love to understand how aligned you are with our vision for strategic philanthropy, and how it relates to your organization. So please share with us your thoughts here. And I'll give you a couple seconds, and we'll move on to the other 2. Okay, thank you for that. The next 2 polls are really questions, and it's an action item for the folks on the phone. So moving on, we are very excited, and like I mentioned at the beginning, our vision is what sets our course for the roadmap and what we build and how we kind of realize product functionality going into 2024. So we will be pulling together some roadmap webinars in January, in which we will be sharing more about how we are going to bring this vision to life through our products. So please let us know if you would like to attend the webinar in January. We will be sending out more reminders and information as we get closer to that timeline, but we'd just love to get a sense now of your level of interest in attending this in January. And we do hope to see you in January. All right, last one. All right, so the other thing we would love to get your input on and your perspective on across our customer base is how we think about our product and our service offerings going forward. So what this means is, how do we think about how we bundle together functionality within the product and potentially service or training, or other capabilities that will help you better succeed and realize and sort of join us on this vision forward. So to that end, we are looking for feedback and the opportunity to collaborate on how we will think about packaging our products in different configurations and what services we might be able to offer or create to support you in this journey and this vision. Because your success is our success for sure. Okay. Thank you so much for going through this. I think we've got time for a handful of questions. I know I've seen some come in.
Yes, thank you, Lauren. I so appreciate all of that additional insight into this sector. Scott, thank you for your larger Bonterra vision. It's a super impactful guiding point for everybody here on the call, and hope you all enjoyed learning what these folks have put a lot of time, effort, and hard work behind. So thank you all so much for participating, and thank you for your questions. We'll take, like I said, as many as we can, but also want to leave us some time to close out and wrap up. But Lauren, I know you had mentioned kind of we're working on roadmaps in January, but folks are curious, right? Like how will this support the larger vision for cyber grants? Like, where are we going in 2024? What should we expect to see?
Yeah. I, of course, know that everyone is eager to hear about roadmap. Vision is exciting, but roadmap is where the rubber hits the road, so to speak. And I think, for both our cyber grants and our WeSpire customers, it's important to talk about what this means for both of them. So cyber grants, for those of you who have used it, who are familiar with it, it's a super powerful platform that supports really complex grant making and employee giving and volunteerism programs. And WeSpire is super effective at engaging employees to take action. So as we think about this future vision, one of the things that has been top of mind for me and for the team is how do we leverage sort of the richness of cyber grants and the engagement capabilities of WeSpire together, sort of to fill out this vision. So I think in 2024, what we want to do is think about how do we strengthen the foundation of both, so that we can build across it. So strengthen the foundation of both of these products so we can better foster those connections. You heard me talk, I talked a ton about matching and data and how we want to be matchmakers. What's critical to that is the data that underpins both of these products to support this vision. So that's kind of foundational, is how do we get that data sort of aligned across all the product sets, standardized so that we can build some AI capabilities on top of it. And then also how do we use that to make the process of giving more frictionless? So I talked about being responsive to disasters and sort of having a no-code way of doing campaigns. There's some work we have to do to make that possible. So I think that's what we'll probably see in the first half of 24 is what is some of that foundational work. It's not always the sexiest of things, but it's what unlocks a lot of this vision going forward. Again, lots more to come when you join our roadmap webinars in January and ones after that. So I really hope you voted yes. If not, it's not too late to join in January, but we'll talk a lot more about what we're going to be doing to support this vision at that session in January.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Lauren. And like we said, lots more to come. So it's really just the start. So I've got a little bit more of like a specific question. I know we have a ton of different groups in here with different backgrounds. This came in from someone who said, I work for a small nonprofit. Will this make it easier for our organization to increase funding from corporate partners, and how?
Yeah, it's a great question. That's certainly the vision, right? Is that we will create this ecosystem in which there will be more data and more information to create those connections between social good organizations and funders, right? So understanding, I think, from a social good perspective is how can you better promote and share sort of impact data to drive awareness of the success that your organization has had, and our platform will provide the mechanisms for being able to do that. And I think not only like then how do you sort of promote yourself through that data, but also streamline the sort of grant application process. So if you think about almost like a grants marketplace, where it'll be easier, hopefully, for social good organizations to find those open grant making opportunities that they might, qualify for, be eligible for funders to be able to find organizations that may not have been on their roadmap previously, right? And maybe invite them into the grant making process, or to create a relationship in which they can work together on programs and different initiatives that might be coming up.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And lots more to come on that, I think, for sure, when we talk in January. So I know it's very high level, but we'll talk more about specifics next year.
Yeah, appreciate that, Lauren.
Yep.
I think we have time maybe for one more question before we wrap up here. I like to call this maybe some more like hot seat coaching, where we've got more of a scenario. So someone here mentioned, a challenge for us has always been measuring and reporting on impact. You're just talking about that a little bit. We feel like we can measure dollars granted and matched and hours volunteered, but it's harder to understand the impact that has on communities. So how will Bonterra and this vision really help solve for that problem?
Yeah, this is probably the thing that we think about 85% of the day. Top of mind is measurable, meaningful impact, and not vague impact, right? I don't know how many of you, there's actually an interesting line in the Realized Worth Institute technology roundup that just came out today. Actually, their webinar is happening right now as well. That also kind of alluded to this, which is hours volunteered and sort of dollars given is great, but like, what are the outcomes that we're driving to is really what's impactful. And so we think about that a lot. And I think Scott mentioned this too when we talked about the tenets of trust that we're aiming for, which is, how do I know that my dollars that I've given or my hours are given are having an impact in the community or having a measurable result? And how do I find those organizations that are doing it? So what I'm going to say is this is top of mind. I would actually promote the webinar session that Scott is doing tomorrow with my colleague, Tom Esposito, on impact management, because Tom and his team are really focused on how do we standardize and think about impact measurement, and then how that can be surfaced sort of across our social good ecosystem to drive more giving, to drive more engagement across the board. So I know that's sort of a broad answer. I would listen to what Tom has to say tomorrow, or listen to the recording to understand more about how we're thinking about impact management specifically.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you, Lauren.
Yep.
And for those who are curious, you will receive the recording to all 3 sessions if you were in attendance today. So if you can't make the live session tomorrow, which we'd love to have you and encourage you to do, you will be able to view that back. It'll come all in the same email from us. So you can keep an eye out for that. But thank you for all of that additional insight. I know we've got a couple minutes left here, so I want to let Scott close us out, but really appreciate everyone's attention to detail and asking really great questions throughout this session. And we look forward to getting to what's left. But Scott, I'll let you say goodbye to everyone.
Great. Thanks, Amanda. We really appreciate everybody taking time out to spend the day with us today. Look, we see this very much as sort of the beginning of a journey. It's the beginning of Bonterra. It's the beginning of pulling all these things together. We've laid out now, I think, where we're intending to go, and we really appreciate the feedback you provided on that. We're going to have a bunch of subsequent sessions where we'll get into, gory detail about specific products and specific roadmaps. We're going to be launching things like user groups, product councils, customer advisory boards, where we'll get to engage with you in person. So looking forward to all of that in 2024. Thanks again for attending.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Take care.